Hello and welcome to the TechGig podcast episode on solving the complexities of data science for industries. I'm your host, Sukriti Aduvanshi. We are living in a world that is generating data at an unprecedented scale like never before. The current pandemic that has pushed the enterprise to be more digital has, in the hindsight, propelled the digital business transformation and in turn generating more and more data. This has led to creation of new opportunities for enterprises, be it new products or services, or using data to optimize their business processes, or to attract more customers or provide them better customer experience. And at the heart of all these, data science and AI, that is considered as a software engine in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, is playing a key role. But at the same time, not all industries or enterprises are able to extract the value from their data science investment, or sometimes don't even know how to start or how to scale, leading to the data science maturity divide. To talk about how one can solve the complexities of data science for industries, I'm in conversation with Abhishek Kumar, who is the Director, Data Science at Publicis Sapient. Abhishek leads the data science practice in India. He has led data science engagements across multiple industries such as automotive, logistics, QSR, telecom, energy, retail, and financial services. He has authored multiple data science and machine learning courses, followed by data science aspirants across the globe, and has also been a renowned speaker at various international conferences. Welcome to the show, Abhishek. I'm delighted to have you and looking forward to some enticing insights from the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, Shukriti, on your podcast. And I'm also looking forward to this interesting discussion.
Okay, so without any further ado, Abhishek, I would want to get on to the questions. So tell me, what is making it so hard for organizations to solve complexities around data science? What are the key considerations and strategies enterprises can adopt to tackle these complexities?
Sukriti, I'll try to answer this question using the famous 3Ps framework, that is people, process, and platform. Well, on the people front, let's talk about the leaders and stakeholders who are responsible for the data science journey in their respective organization or business units. And one of the most common challenge that I have observed that many organizations are not very clear on their data science vision and what they can even do with the data assets that they already have. And also, data science engagements required a lot of commitment from domain experts, stakeholders, to ensure that the project is moving in the right direction and is delivering the right business impact. And this challenge further aggravates due to lack of right resources. There is a huge skill gap across the globe in terms of data science practitioners and people who can drive such kind of engagements. So that was probably some of the key challenges on the people front. While on the process front, organizations, especially the traditional enterprises that are not used to the data-driven decision-making, they lack the right processes that should be in place, right from use case identification to their realization. This has probably is leading to the delay in time to market, and eventually investors' confidence also goes down. Hence, it is paramount for enterprises to continuously evolve their data science processes across the value chain. And if you look into the platform part, even the organizations who may have the right use cases defined and may have the right set of people working on them, they don't have the right tooling and the platform to put these data science initiatives in production in reasonable time frame. And this also means that enterprises are not able to realize the full value from their data science and AI investments.
Can you expand on the platform about Abhishek? What are the things industries can do to ensure that they have the right systems in place for faster time to market for their data science solutions?
That is a great question, Sukriti, and I've been part of numerous discussions, right, with our clients across different industries where they share that they have tried their hands on some of the data science use cases. They have developed some small POCs, but they're struggling to use them or put them into production. Or they are not able to do iterative experiments or even refresh their data science and machine learning systems using the newer data that they're collecting. through their applications or through their services. Well, putting data science and machine learning systems in production does take considerable effort. I have seen teams investing most of the effort in coming up with more and more complicated and fancy algorithms. While that is great, but the fact is that the building data science models is just one part of the puzzle. That typically gets most of the attention, by the way. But you also need optimized packaging of those solutions, right reproducible pipelines, as well as all the instrumentation that can help to continuously integrate and deploy incremental version of your data science systems. In fact, if you look at the enterprises who have truly harnessed their data science potential, have invested a lot to build the right tooling and the platform that can cover all the 9 yards, right from development to production, as well as, in fact, post-production management. In fact, we at Publicis Sapient, we have also built an accelerator for enterprise data science and AI platform we call Bodhi that helps our client to fast track this journey. Lately, by the way, there has been a huge push in this aspect of data science and machine learning. In fact, led to new career roles, by the way, just such as ML ops or ML engineers. People who understand data science concepts reasonably well, but also have a very strong engineering background. And we are going to see more and more organizations, by the way, putting more emphasis on data science productionization and tooling in the coming future.
Interesting. So you've been working with different industries, Abhishek. What are the industry-specific data science challenges and nuances you've observed based on your experience so far?
Well, Sukriti, there are some common challenges that I already talked about in terms of the people, process, and platform part. But there are some industry-specific nuances too. And it is very important to understand those nuances and create a tailored strategy rather than just a blanket one. So let me take a few industry-specific examples to put this in perspective. So if you look at the financial services or healthcare that are highly regulated sector, and there are some restrictions in terms of the use of data and data science. For example, you don't want a fully black box system for taking a financial decision, or for that matter, a health related decision. Hence, the emphasis are on relatively simpler model, but that are explainable in nature, so that you can explain why you took certain decision. Beyond explainability, I'll say algorithmic bias is a very important aspect, as you need to ensure that the data science systems are not biased against a certain demographics. In fact, there is a huge push towards what we call as a responsible AI, that is focusing towards use of data and AI in a fashion that is more responsible, unbiased, and equitable. But if you look into, for example, on the other hand, retail industries, for that example, their prime goal is to have more accurate and precise data science and machine learning systems, even if those are like black box in nature. However, for them, speed is key requirement because of the volume as well as the changing customer expectations, and you need to act on them really fast. And if you talk about speed, another thing that comes into my mind is like automotive, right? And especially like self-driving cars that are one of the most prime and groundbreaking, fascinating example of data science and AI. But that requires ultra fast decision making, and it has to be reliable as well, because it could be just a matter of human life. But if you look into some of the other industries, such as like telecom, where there is huge volume of data, but they face the challenge of what we call as noisy data. Telecom clients are trying to handle the noisy data to extract key insights and provide better services to their customers. In fact, data quality, if you call, is one of the biggest deterrent in a data science journey. right? And as we are speaking, we are working with some of the global giants, and we are helping them to use some really creative and very sophisticated data science and machine learning systems actually to enrich their data quality. And it might seem counterintuitive, but actually enterprises nowadays as well are facing the challenge of what I call as a lack of quality data. And if it is not addressed appropriately, what is going to happen is the decisions they would be taking would not be a true reflection of what is happening out there. And in some situations, it may also backfire.
So, Abhishek, with this, I have a very pertinent question to ask since you mentioned that the enterprises have very less quality data. Can you expand on it and suggest ways that enterprises can adopt to handle these challenges?
Yeah, sure, Sukriti. So, well, data is central part of any data science or AI, right? And if you see right quality of data with right volume and size, is I'll say the biggest factor between truly data native enterprises that are using data and AI as key strategic differentiators and their competitors. I believe that is the biggest factor. Because if you look at any data science systems, those are data hungry. In fact, if you apply more complex data science approaches and models, those are even more data hungry. So obviously, this is one of the questions that we often get. And what we typically recommend to a lot of clients is a multi-pronged approach to tackle this data issue. First, using maybe simpler approaches to start with for their data science use case development. This also helps actually to establish the baseline, and then performing analysis such as error analysis, such that to see how much lift that they're getting if they're adding more and more data. And sometimes they have to probably apply different techniques. For example, data augmentation techniques such as synthetic data generation using their existing data, and sometimes we have found those as well really helpful. And sometimes we may have to think creatively actually to get the right data, and that may involve maybe like a crowdsourcing, either using, let's say, volunteers or beta users, or sometimes even using mechanical Turks. And then there could be some use cases that are like well researched that can also actually get benefited using techniques such as transfer learning, where you take the existing knowledge baked into the solutions that are already available for the problems for similar domains, and then you take them and then customize it for your enterprise. In fact, I'll say transfer learning is one of the key reasons behind the latest surge, as well as the democratization of AI in the area, especially in the area of computer vision and natural language processing. That was earlier limited to, I'll say, few enterprises, maybe few top institutes. And in fact, this is one of the typical challenge faced by startups also, right? When who want to build data science and AI powered systems, but they lack data. And my advice to them would be very similar. There is nothing better than the actual real world data. So try to put your solution in users' hands as early as possible and ensure that you have the right plumbing done that can help to generate more and more data that can improve your offering. So probably these are definitely some of the recommendation that I'll make.
Thank you for that. Okay, Abhishek, so what advice would you give to executives or leaders who are using or planning to use data science and AI to solve the key problems and create innovative solutions and gain a competitive edge?
Thanks for asking, Sukriti, this question. And I alluded towards some of the pointers early in the conversation, but if I have to share some of my top recommendations, then the first one in the list would be around ensuring that the vision is very clear in terms of data science right at the outset. Leaders and stakeholders, they need to ensure that they are doing the due diligence in terms of prioritizing and accepting data science projects. In fact, they need to be ruthless at times to ensure that the right problem is getting solved. Else, what is going to happen is the project can digress and the expected outcomes that we wanted would be difficult to achieve. But this also means that they need to consider their data science teams as partners and not just a support function. Because as I mentioned earlier, data science engagements need a lot of brainstorming with domain experts, business folks, and other data science teams, or other data teams for that matter. And it can only work out if there is a dedication not only from the data scientists in the core team, but also from the stakeholders to provide the right feedback at the right time and ensure that it is aligned with the wider vision of the organization. And one more advice I would like to give to the executives would be to not think data science or AI as magic. In fact, just like treat this maybe as any other critical project. Data science projects also requires proper business formulation, a right team on the ground, and maybe most important a lot, institutional and team agility. Data science work needs to be, in fact, must be highly iterative, where you start with simpler approaches and gradually you are moving towards more complex ones. And that means is throughout this entire journey, the leaders and stakeholders should be fully involved. And also it is the duty of those leaders and stakeholders to ensure that they are investing in the right processes and the systems to ensure that data quality is there. That means is maybe working with other teams, maybe engineering teams, to ensure that data pipeline is in place, or they may have to probably help in breaking those organizational silos to ensure that the right data, right quality data for that matter, is available to the data science team so that they can perform their work effectively. And I want to just re-emphasize on the right team on the ground part, because a data science project, like I mentioned, it requires people from different background, be it domain experts, business stakeholders, researchers, engineers. And while we do wish for unicorns who can do everything, but the ground reality is that it is very tough. It is very tough to find and then retain such resources. So that means is in order to scale, leaders and stakeholders, they need to ensure that they are investing in right set of resources as well as grooming them. That is important, so that they're groomed in a fashion so that they can work in a cohesive manner, right? So that it can lead to the desired outcomes.
I'm sure this is going to be very helpful for the leaders, Abhishek. Moving on to the next thing that I need to ask you is a piece of advice that you would give to seasoned as well as aspiring data scientists, so that they can tackle the DS project complexities and also create a mark for themselves.
Great question, Sukriti. In fact, this is the one that I often get in my interactions with budding and aspiring data scientists, not only within the organization, but also outside the organization. And first and foremost recommendation I always give to any aspirant is that they should ensure that the basics are in place. I know many people want to jump onto the data science bandwagon and then AI bandwagon because it is in the hype, right? But if you really want to be successful in this career, you need to ensure that you're not taking any shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to success, right? You need to have the right basics in place, be it in terms of data science fundamentals or statistics or underlying mathematical underpinnings and concepts, or even programming for that matter. But beyond these core skills, if you want to succeed in a data science project, then you must I'll say you must invest in understanding the problem statement itself. And you need to understand what are the nuances for that industry, for that organization, what is the vision for that organization, why they are probably working on this particular use case at the first place. And then you need to also define what is the success criteria for that project. And many times it might not be actually very apparent, by the way, right? It might not be very intuitive that what would be a success criteria. In fact, so in those situations, you might have to be a bit creative at times as well. So for example, okay, whether this once you do this project, how you will say that okay, you were successful, right? So you need to define all of it upfront so that you can track them. And also, while stakeholders would be there to guide, but don't expect them to be maybe always available to define as well as refine the problem. You might get, let's say, a high level business statement or goal, but I'll say it's a data science team's responsibility as well, so that they ask the right questions, so that they can clearly define the problem statement. Because you say that if you have defined the problem well, you have actually solved the problem, right, in a way at least 50%. So, but once the problem is defined, I don't typically recommend that you directly jump into solutioning mode. I typically, in fact, say that don't jump into creating, in fact, creating very complex and sophisticated algorithms or approaches. Maybe start simple, follow iterative approach, and also ensure that you have the right system to track your experiments, so that you're tracking the progress against the baseline, that how much you have improved from your previous iteration that you have done or your previous experiments. Work in that collaborative fashion with the rest of the team members. And many a times you may have to break the problems into smaller chunks. Then you should look around and do some research that how others have approached those smaller chunks and problems. So you might have to dig deeper to identify things that worked out for others, but also things that did not work out, and try to find out reasons why it did not. Because it is going to save you a lot and lots of time, because you can piggyback on others' learning, and then you can bootstrap your project rather than just going everything from scratch. And last but probably not the least, my recommendation would be don't be siloed. Try to involve yourself with other business stakeholders, domain experts, and other team members. I cannot emphasize enough on the importance of communication. A great data scientist is not the one who uses technical jargons all the time, rather the one who can apply exactly the right abstraction while talking to different people, so that he or she is able to communicate well. So in nutshell, beyond all of the technical prowess that you can own, also try to become a good storyteller, because that is the, I'll say, the perfect recipe of the data science magic that we all want to witness.
That was fantastically put up, Abhishek. I should just mention specifically that the key element of communication that you've just pointed out. So thank you so much for sharing some mind blowing facts and insights to solve the business complexities around data science, and your valuable details and insights from right from journey to development to production, or maybe new career roles that you've spoken about, in terms of the ML engineers, and your advice for the seasoned aspiring data scientists and leaders was all fascinating and fantastically comprehended, Abhishek. Thank you once again for being a part of the show.
Thanks a lot, Sukriti, for having me again. And this was one of the very interesting topic for me personally, right? And I hope that this podcast would have given some good pointers to ponder.
I'm sure, Abhishek, this is going to be very helpful for our audience. Audience, thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation and have taken a note of all the important aspects of solving the complexities around data science. TechGig will be back with another podcast super soon. Stay tuned to TechGig for all the tech updates. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.